I wanted to get into some of our process. Some of you have been asking about some of our process, how Twitch writes music, how we go from initial ideas to complete song, and I can't really show it to you because the process for us is different each time. So sometimes I'm playing around with samples in the beginning, just making sample loops and such. Sometimes I write some guitar parts first, sometimes it's the drums. It really depends on what I'm doing. Sometimes I'm intentional about what I'm doing. Like sometimes I'll specifically start with guitars because I want that song to be a little bit more guitar driven. But all in all, the process for us, at least in the beginning, it's very chaotic. Like we have no set way of doing things. However, it is a little different if I've worked on, like if I'm in a coffee shop or something and I'm starting something in a coffee shop, because sometimes I like to do that. Sometimes I like to go to coffee shops and sit in a coffee shop with headphones and work on music and stuff like that. And sometimes the process is a little different because of that, because I can't do vocals in a coffee shop because I'm not going to be singing when there's a bunch of people around. I usually don't do lyrics in public spaces. All my lyrics are usually done in some form of isolation or in this studio here. But if I'm doing stuff in a coffee shop, then it's a little different because sometimes I'll start with drums, sometimes I'll start with a synth line or something like that, or some samples and stuff. And then if I'm working in a coffee shop, what I normally do is I take the song as far as I can go. I get a basic skeleton of what I want the song to be without guitars and without vocals and lyrics and stuff. And I'll create a basic skeleton, have my like, okay, here's where the chorus is going, here's where the verse is, and all that kind of stuff, and kind of organize it that way and create a skeleton. And then when I come back into my home studio, obviously I'll sit down, plug everything in, turn everything on, and do all the other stuff I couldn't do while I was in a coffee shop, and then kind of complete the songs there. Yeah, so we begin a little chaotic, whether it's here in the studio or in a coffee shop or whatever it is, wherever we start. And then as the song is developing, typically what I do is I kind of feel things out with the song. Like I'll sit down and, like, maybe I'm working on drum parts, maybe I'm working on guitar parts. You know, sometimes I'll have an idea that pops in my head and I'm like, okay, I need to switch over and get this idea out, and then switch over from doing what I was doing previously. Like maybe I was working on guitars and then all of a sudden I have this idea for a synth line or whatever, and then I'm like, okay, I'll set down the guitars, do this synth line, and then see how I feel afterwards. And I kind of feel my way through the song. I know a song is done when it feels like I've gotten the message across, or gotten the message in the song across, and the song, I feel, communicates what I'm trying to get across. And yeah, I just kind of feel things out, and then when I get to it, at a certain point, I'll be like, okay, I think if no other ideas are popping up, I get to the point where it's like, okay, I think this is done. However, there have been a couple of times where I've set something down after I think it's done, and then I'm like, I need to go back to this and mess with it a little bit more. So sometimes that happens too. But there is one thing that does usually these days preempt the actual music writing. Like typically there'll be a couple of sessions where I sit down and take a couple of hours to write out lyrics to songs or an entire album. Like I've had sessions where I've just focused on lyrics and I'll usually, these days, what I'll usually do is I'll have an idea for an album and a theme, and then of course I start like, okay, well this would be a cool song with this kind of theme. And what I do is I write in my lyric book, I write the song names, and then I have like a table of contents that I set up for each album that I'm working on, and I write down the song names for each of those. And then what I'll do is I'll have a little note where it's like, okay, this song is on this page, and then on that, then you go to that page and that's where that song is. And then sometimes I'll write a little note that's like, okay, this is what I kind of want to sing about in this song. And then sometimes it's just getting out song names and themes. And then what I do is another day or a little later on in the session, I'll go back to those song titles and I'll start writing lyrics for those songs. And I have written entire albums worth of lyrics several times in a matter of like 3 or 4 hours or something like that. Granted, I tweak them in the actual recording and writing process sometimes, but yeah, that would be the one thing that is consistent that I kind of start with, at least these days. In the past, sometimes I've written music and then I'm like, I come up with lyrics after the fact, but these days, most of the stuff that I've written in the last couple of years, I've written the lyrics first, and then if I were to go into a coffee shop, I'd base my skeletons around the structure of the lyrics, and then build the songs as far as I can in a coffee shop on my laptop with headphones, and get the basic skeleton. And then when I'm back in my home studio or studio, whatever you want to call it, I'll sit down and like expand on those ideas and tweak things where I need to, and put the guitar parts in, do my vocals, do any hardware synthesizer type stuff that I want to, if I'm doing that for whatever particular song or album that I'm writing. And yeah, but other than the lyrics, I would say at least the last couple of years, I would say the process is fairly chaotic. After writing, or after I complete an album's worth of songs, I have a checklist and all that kind of stuff with the songs and what kind of samples I want to use and kind of ideas written beside the lyrics in my lyric book. And when I get to a certain phase, when I feel the song is done and it communicates what I want it to, I will, okay, is this done? Feels awesome. Okay, awesome. Check it off, done. And then what I'll do is I'll systematically go through each song in my lyric book and check off the ones that are started, and then once they're done, I'll check them off when they're done. And then what typically ends up happening is I let it sit after an album. I've written an album's worth of material. I let it sit after it's all done, and I let it sit for a few days, and then just to refresh and just to come at it from a new kind of fresh ears and kind of a new perspective. And then I'll start the mixing and mastering process. And then after that's done, then the album's done, and then that would be our process these days. At least currently, that's what the process is like. I'm starting to work on another album here, and I've got all the lyrics written. Some of the music isn't written. I've got music for 5 or 6 of the songs or skeletons of 5 or 6 of the songs so far, and yeah, all the lyrics are written for it, and I'm in the process of processing samples for it, and I will be importing those samples into a specific piece of gear that I want to utilize for this album process. And then after all those samples are imported into that device, I will be programming everything in, programming certain things into the device, the hardware, and then record some stuff with it. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing now. And then after all those, everything is assigned to where it needs to be with this piece of hardware, I will play certain parts with it and record those jam sessions, and then throw them into the music, and then finish all those songs and yeah, and then that'll be the process, and then we'll see. That's our process. I can't really show it, like I said, I can't really show it to you because, I mean, if you want to see some of our process, I have done some making of videos from past albums and stuff. You can kind of see what we're doing in those videos. Well, I can do those making ofs. I feel like they haven't really gotten a lot of views, so I haven't done any more because no one seems to be interested in those making ofs. So I figured I would just do this quick video just to, you know, explain what our process is, and hopefully that's helpful for you. One thing I really enjoy is actually going into someone else's studio and kind of watching their process of how they're writing and stuff, not copying what they're doing, not copying their sound or anything like that, but just watching the process and, you know, just seeing what they do, and just I find that inspiring. Like, I like seeing people's recording process. I like seeing how they put together songs and stuff, and how they go from a blank slate to a completed song. And I figured I would explain the process to you for the folks that are interested, that have asked, because I can't really show it to you because there is no like set in stone way of the way we work and stuff. So it's, like I said, it's very chaotic and very random. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Please share this. If you have any questions or comments regarding our process, leave those questions or comments in the comment section. I can definitely answer those. If you feel this channel has value, hit that bell button to be notified when the next video comes out. So see you in the next video.